Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this Monday afternoon. My name is Hayley Burkout, and we'll get started as the time's just gone 2:30. So I'm sure that everyone wants to be running on time today, given it's Monday and there's normally so much to get done on the first day back. So I'll be taking you through today's webinar, Applying Kudos Boards in Your Business or Organisation. And to give you an idea of what we'll cover today, I'll give you a very quick introduction to ISW, who makes Kudos Boards. I'll take you over to the My Boards dashboard to talk about what a board is. We'll look at navigating a board in the Kanban, mind map and timeline views. And while we're doing this, we'll look at the 3 different perspectives of boards. So that's the individual, team and invited external parties perspectives. We'll look really quickly at how to make a board, just so you've got an idea of how quick and easy it is. And then we'll have a quick look at the Teams integration, so Kudos Boards integration into Microsoft Teams. And lastly, we'll look at Kudos Boards for free. So we've got a fair bit to cover, which is why we'll get started straight away. This session is being recorded, so if you ever wanted to pop back later and have a look at what we covered or send on to your colleagues, please do. I'll send a follow-up email after this with the link to the webinar. If you have any questions along the way, please pop them in the Q&A box and I'd be happy to respond to them at the end of the session. But let's get started. So I work for a company called ISW, and it's an Australian software and technology development company. So ISW provides solutions in the Microsoft, HCL and IBM space around collaboration, cloud, intelligence, data, innovation and managed services. So ISW has been operating for about 23 years. Its head office is in Hobart, Tasmania, and we have teams also based in Melbourne, which is where I am, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Europe and North America. So we work with businesses of all sizes, from small, medium business up to enterprise of 100,000 plus users. And this work is across all types of industries, including not-for-profit, universities and TAFEs, sporting, manufacturing, retail, government. So a huge range of industries we work with, government departments as well. So there are 6 applications which make up the Kudos apps range. And they include Kudos Boards, Kudos Badges, Kudos Buzzy, Ideas, Analytics and Awards. So we have over 2 million users across the Kudos apps, using Kudos apps around the world. And just a quick note to let you know, in addition to Kudos Boards, Kudos Ideas is the second application which has been integrated into Office 365. So if you have any questions around an ideation platform, at the end of this, please feel free to get in touch, or you're most welcome to visit the website, which is kudosapps.com. So I will jump across to the My Boards dashboard, so bear with me. Okay. So like I said, I've moved across to the My Boards dashboard. And I'm accessing this from the web. I'm just using Chrome to access this. But what you'll see today is that you can access Kudos Boards via the web, and this is plugging into my Office 365 environment with a little quick access applications here on the left-hand side. You can also access this via Microsoft Teams, and I'll show you that integration a little bit later. But pretty much everything that you see me doing today in the web, you'll also be able to do in Teams as well. So I'm just going to do it in the web because we've got people at varying levels of Office 365. Some people are in Teams, some people are not yet. So everything that you see here today that I'm doing on the web, and later you'll see I'll do similar things in Microsoft Teams. You have full functionality across both web and Teams. Okay, so when we talk about Kudos Boards, Kudos Boards is a really flexible and dynamic task and project management application. So it obviously integrates with Office 365, so Microsoft Teams, Outlook, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And it's also use independently if you're not using Office 365. So we have solutions, an option for if you're not yet on the Office 365, but maybe an older version of Office. We also have solutions that still allow you to access Kudos Boards. We've got 3 different perspectives of Kudos Boards, and I'll take you through those perspectives today, but really they come in at the individual level. So that's using Kudos Boards to manage your day-to-day tasks at an individual level, or projects, anything that you're working on. You've got the team collaboration perspective, which means allowing you to collaborate with your team in a holistic way, managing all of your communications and the project at hand in a very transparent and open way within Kudos Boards. You've also got the invited external parties aspect as well. So that means collaborating with people who are external to your organisation, inviting them to come into a Kudos Boards to participate in that way as well. So when we talk about who uses Kudos Boards, it's a really dynamic and customizable approach to organising tasks and projects. So for example, organisations and businesses who use Kudos Boards use it for event management, tracking sales, customer support, onboarding new employees, agile projects, looking after billing cycles and admin processes, day-to-day workflow, media campaigns, strategic planning, brainstorming, staff development, meeting agendas, presentation plans, content creation, pretty much the list goes on. So I'll give you 3 different examples today, but you'll be able to see as we move through Kudos Boards that it's a really flexible application. So anything that you can think of using it for, it could certainly be used for. So just to give you a really brief overview of what we're looking at here. So as I said, I'm in the My Boards dashboard. This is plugging into my Office 365 environment. So it's got my profile picture over here on the left-hand side. Each of these icons here represents a board or a project that I'm working on. So when we talk about a board can be a set of tasks that I need to get done, or it might be a project that I'm working on individually or with a team. But each of these tiles here is a board. So if I scroll down, you can see I've got quite a few boards going on. And on the left-hand side, you can see this is highlighted in orange, so I'm in the boards section at the moment of the dashboard. On the left-hand side also, I've got my to-dos, and I'll come back to this a little bit later in terms of how you can manage your workflow. And I've also got templates. So one of the fantastic aspects of Kudos Boards is that you have a space for template creation, which is really nice because if you have a lot of processes that you need to standardize across a business, this works really well in terms of creating templates that people can use, go and grab, copy, create boards from and work from. But it means that that process is, that layout and all the information that's required is there already and standardized across the business. Also, we have tile colors. So these are editable and I can drag and drop them onto different boards to help me categorize. So if I click in, I can update any of these that I like. For example, new tile color. And I might drag that across to here and you can see automatically I've got a real-time update for that board now being under new tile color. So that's a really nice and easy way to categorize your boards and the projects that you're working on. This also acts as a filter as well. So if I want to filter down just to my demo boards, I can do that here. Future tasks, I can do that there. Under that, we've got board labels, and this is like an added aspect of categorization. So again, this is drag and drop onto a board, and it it acts as a filter as well and just gives you a little bit more information about what you might be able to expect from that board. For example, over here I've got this one tagged as marketing and training. So again, just a bit of added customization. You can use, view your boards by colors, which is my preferred way, but I've also got the option to see what I've accessed most recently, labels, groups, and roles. Okay, so we might pop into a board. Before we move over, I'll just draw your attention to this one, public. So this public tab shows me all of the boards that are public within my organization, and I'll show you how you can make that public. So some organizations are using this to where they don't want any information or knowledge lost when someone leaves, or if they have an important project that's coming up. Okay, excuse me while I just muted for a second while I coughed. Okay, so let's have a look at a board. So I've come into this board called Website Updates. And pretty much this is a board that I'm working on. I'm responsible for the updates that happen to our website at ISW. So I've come in here and this is my title here. Everything that you see within Kudos Boards is fairly straightforward in terms of being able to edit. That makes it a really nice intuitive program for people to use. So what you can do is pretty much just click into anything and start editing. So website updates for ISW as an example. Here I've got a little bit of a description about what this board is used for. And again, it's a simple matter to click in and update that. And then I've got my lists, which are sitting in blue. So lists are a way of categorizing the information that, or the tasks that you need to get done. So here I've got tasks that I'm doing. So, and then under that, I've got cards that sit there. And a card is essentially like a task or something that needs to get done within this project. Everything is editable and can be moved around. So I can actually see that I've got this in the wrong order. So I'm going to grab this whole list. I'm going to move it to the left. And again, I can also do that with any of the cards. So as I start working through my backlog and I think, okay, this one is, I'm going to start working on that, or I've made a start, I can drag that and drop it across into the appropriate list. So this is sort of a classic way, the to-do, doing, done, in terms of managing tasks in the traditional Kanban board. So let's have a look at what is in a card. And here I've got the title of the task that needs to be done. I can add a description, some tags, which can later become searchable in the search bar up the top. I can add some links and attachments, and this is really nice. So I can actually find files that are on my desktop, or I can link through to files that are in my OneDrive. And I can also, if I chose something from my desktop, but it was ready to be uploaded into my OneDrive, I can actually select the file, the folder where I would like it to be stored. So that's a really nice, simple integration with OneDrive. You can also link to other boards. So for example, if this fix bugs task gets quite a lot bigger and I want to sort of dive deeper into it, make it its own little project, I could link through to a new board and have all of the information that I need through to that board. But it just creates a nice, quick and easy link for me to jump into that next board or project. I can also paste in links here as well. So anything from the web, I can, a URL I can paste in. And I can also add in comments to help me keep track of what I'm doing within this task. So at the moment, I'm just working in this one in this board by myself at the individual level, but I might like to come in here and just so I've got everything out in my board so nothing is forgotten, I can come in here and add tasks to remind myself how things are progressing within this to-do. Under that, I've got subcards, and subcards can essentially act like a to-do within a to-do. So they might make up smaller pieces of a bigger task, and you can click in and have all of the same information here as you do. So if I click into this page displacement task, I can add in additional information here as required. I've also got the option to set dates. So I can add a due date. If this has something specifically requested, I can add in a due date, and I might say next Wednesday. I can add a start and end date as well. So if I say today, and that I will finish it later this week. And has that done it correctly? Let's have a look. I'll say I'll finish it on the 16th. Okay, and I want to have it finished a couple of days before it's due. So adding a due date will give it, when we click out of this, it'll have a little alarm clock to show that it has a due date allocated. Adding a start and end date will automatically add it to the timeline when we move across to the timeline view. On the right hand side here, we've got assign users. As I mentioned, I'm just working on this board individually, so I don't necessarily need to assign myself to every task. I can mark this complete if I like, so that's just ticking off this little box here. And I can convert to an entry as well. So an entry does not have the little tick box, but it might act as more of a piece of information, or if you have a policy to add to a board that you want everyone to read, you might like to add it as an entry instead. We can also select colors, and I'll just close this for a second, but here on the right hand side you can see that I've got a little pencil to edit board colors, and I can come in here and customize these as required. So I can pop in new labels, and it's just a matter of dragging and dropping across and popping on to the card. So again, like we had in the My Boards dashboard, we can actually use these to filter down to specific cards that have a color label as well. Okay, so on the right hand side, I wanted to show you the mind map view. So this works really nicely depending on what your visual preference is for working. So sometimes I like to use a mind map for things like managing the website updates. I like to see it a little bit more visual. I also like to use mind maps for brainstorming when we're doing some marketing sessions or meeting agendas. I also like to use a mind map, but it's really an individual preference. So if you prefer something more visual, mind map works really well, and you've got the option to use the different layouts here on the right hand side. So I'm currently in radial, and I've just used the free connector type, but let me come to horizontal, and I can scroll in and see these. Scroll in and out using my mouse, and I might have and I can use these little buttons as well just to sort of change up the view to get something that I'm happy with. So across to vertical, let's have a look at step. That's a little bit more structured. So it really depends on your preference and how you like to work. In here, we also have in here the ability to, you've got full functionality essentially. So if I click into here, we will see all of the information that we had before. We can select colors and assign users as well, add any comments as well. You've also got the drag and drop option onto cards if you like, same with members. So let's just have a quick so that's the mind map. And so we've had a look at the personal view of Kudos Boards. So let's come across to another board to have a look at new employee onboarding. So this is sort of the second perspective of Kudos Boards in terms of being able to work with and collaborate with your team in an open and transparent way. So this board, when we show this board, we normally get a really good response because it's something that every business or organization goes through. They always have staff coming in and out, and so an employee onboarding can be really useful. So here again, we've got the title, we've got the lists at the top in blue, and we've got the tasks that need to be done underneath. So I've actually made this board, I've copied it from a template that we have. So this is one of the processes that might be standardized across your organization, and you can create a template that you can roll out every time someone new comes on board. So within here, I've got some to-dos, tour of facilities, for example, are listing all the spots that we need to go to. We've got prior to arrival, first day, first week, first month. And on the right-hand side, I've added some members to this board. So these are people who are in my organization, and I've been able to come in here and set their permission level. So let's add someone else, just as an example. I will add Nick from my team. And I'm going to say Nick can also be an editor because I know he'll need to participate quite a bit. But you've got the option to set permission levels. So owner, they can also, they have full run of the board. They can invite people to the board. Editor can do pretty much everything in terms of creating lists, cards, editing. Author can only create new cards, but they can't edit existing cards. And you've got reader, which has read-only permissions. So I can add members here. Okay, so Nikki's been added to the board. And then this is a really nice way to, using your members on the right-hand side, this is a nice way to allocate people to tasks. So Adam, I'm going to drag across for him to confirm the start date and time. Andrew, I'm going to pop on taking the team out. And as you can see, really simple and easy way just to allocate tasks to people quickly. So this creates a really nice level of transparency in terms of people being able to see that their profile icon is allocated to something. When they're assigned to a task, they'll also get a notification that they have been assigned to a task. So if this is in Teams, this will come up, they'll get a notification within Teams if it's been added to a channel. If you're not using Microsoft Teams, they'll get a notification via email that they've been assigned to a task, a link to that board so they can just pop in and see what's going on. Okay, so that's a really nice, easy way to assign tasks. But what it also does is gives you the option to click in and @mention your colleagues to get status updates. I'm going to say, hey, Adam, have you sent the email yet? Adam will get a notification to say, hey, Hayley's mentioned you in a comment, and that'll prompt him to come in and say, respond to this comment. So where there's a lot of value in this approach to managing tasks and communications all within a board is the fact that it really cuts down on the reply all emails. So rather than having reply all email with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in an email, one person sends out an email saying, hey, how's this going? You get 6 responses from each of those people, and then to go back later on and track and see how that has developed and what has progressed can be really difficult when working over email. So in that respect, it's nice to be able to come in, maintain all of your communication within the board and see what's going on in a really nice and transparent way. So here we've got the ability to start and finish dates. And let's just add some dates in quickly so we can see on the timeline, but very quick to sort of add some due dates in. And it's automatically assigning it. If I don't pick one specifically, it will assign an end date to 3 days later. And I've got the option to edit that as well. I'll just pop across to another employee onboarding one that we've been using that has dates already populated. So that'll be nice and easy to show you. Okay, so this is an example of our timeline. So at the moment, the swim lanes on the left-hand side are set up by the lists. So that was our blue list at the top, follow-up, first day, first week, etc. And then it's populated the tasks against a timeline. So where they had a start and end date, it's popped them onto the timeline automatically. And as I mentioned, it might allocate it to 3 days automatically, but you've got the option to extend that or shorten that as required based on how quickly you're getting tasks done. Here again, like the timeline, you've got full functionality. So if I pop in and open this, I can add in all of the relevant information here. I've also got the drag and drop features for members and color labels as well. On the left-hand side, if I wanted to see this timeline differently, I can pop down this list and I can choose color, and I can see that the tasks against, I can see the tasks on the timeline against what's urgent, what's important, etc. I can also see this on the timeline against who's assigned to what. So here I can see, okay, I've actually got quite a bit on. So I want to share the love with the team. I'm going to bring this across to Nikki, ask him to do that. That'll automatically update with his image and remove it from my list as well. So this is a really nice, quick and easy way to sort of manage team projects. You've got the ability to add comments, add attachments, and maintain all of your communication in one area, which is really nice. Like I said, it's just a really nice and easy way to avoid the reply all emails or the CC emails that tend to get out of hand and also make it really difficult to go back and keep track of who's doing what, who's progressed what tasks, and accountability wise as well. Okay, so I'm going to pop across to our next board. So this Kudos board is for our social content and management. So we have an external contractor who is responsible for managing our social media posts, developing content, and rather than try and work with them over email and keep track of what they're doing in that way, it's been really nice to be able to create a board where I can invite them to come in and participate. So within this board, we can manage all aspects of the social media content and what's going live, what needs to be approved, what are the expenses that we're incurring. So this creates a really nice holistic approach to projects and tasks that for when you're working with someone external to your organization. So over here, just like with the other boards, you've got the option to drag and drop people. So I've added one of my external accounts just as an example, but here I can drag and drop this person who's external to our organization onto a task. So they'll get a notification to say, hey, you've been allocated to a task, and that'll prompt them to take action or respond. In terms of adding someone external to your organization, you can do that by coming in here and typing in their email address. So for example, So just as an example email address, it's automatically allocated them the permission of author, but of course I've got the option to change that. So this is really nice. Some platforms for task management, you'll find that you've only got one option for permission levels for someone who's external to your organization. Where this provides a lot of value is you have the option to choose what level of permission you would like that person external to your organization to have. So whether you want them to be an editor, author, or reader. So it's just a matter of clicking on the add members button here like we did before, and they'll be sent an invitation to join the board. Another nice little feature here is the public access, and I wanted to bring your attention to that because public access means that you can turn on you can make a board discoverable to anyone in your organization, even if they haven't specifically been invited. So if I pop that on, you'll see I've got a couple of different logins, but I could turn on the reader access for my organization. And I've got a little indicator here to say that this board will be visible to everyone in your organization. So non-members can only view the board's contents. They don't have any option to edit. So that's a nice option for organisations where you might have had an experience with high staff turnover or people going on leave or ill unexpectedly, and you found that you've been losing a lot of information or knowledge. Having public boards means that anyone can go and find that information, particularly where it's projects that are quite big or have a lot of time and value invested. So I'll just turn that off for the moment and I will close that window. So this is our third perspective of Kudos Boards. This is the working with an external person external to your organization. And like I said before, so inviting someone external to your organization again is valuable for the reason of cutting down on emails, but also creating a really nice holistic view of the project at hand. One thing to note that when you invite someone into a board, they'll only have access to the board that you've invited them to. So that means that they're not roaming around any of your other boards and they only have access to this specific board. They can't create their own boards unless they are licensed to do so. So you can invite as many people external to your organization as you like to participate in boards. There's no limit. And of course, there's no limit to the number of lists and cards and internal members that you can invite to a board as well. So that's a really nice feature, just making it nice and easy for organizations to collaborate, whether that's internally or externally. Okay, so I'm going to pop across to find my share screen just a second. Okay. A different login that I have. So from the My Boards dashboard, I've just come across to the to-do section, and this is something that I said I would come back to a little bit later. So the to-do section of Kudos Boards is fantastic for managing workflow. So from here, you've got the ability to bring all of the tasks or all of the cards that you have across all of your boards into one place to manage your workflow. So this works really nicely in terms of getting a holistic picture of all of the tasks that you're managing and that you need to look after in one space. So from here, for example, I'm in the created by me section for cards that have been created by me. So on the left hand side here, you can see that I've got a couple of different boards that I'm working from. One is end of year function. One is this week's to-dos. Over here I've got Nikki's board. So I've got a couple of different boards, about 3 different boards, and the cards on those boards are being channeled into this one to-do workspace. So from here I can see I can allocate the tasks that don't yet have a date. I can allocate them to when I'm going to get them done. So I know what I've got coming up and when. So it's simply a matter of dragging and dropping. I might get that done tomorrow and later this week. If I scroll along, you can go all the way up to later this month and in the future. So when you drag and drop something across to today, tomorrow, later this week, etc., it allocates it automatically to a due date. I can click in here to have an overview of the card without having to go into that specific board, which is really nice, a nice little shortcut to see this information. And you can also add comments, subcards, attachments, etc., all the same functionality that you had before. So as the days progress, these cards will move up the line. So this task that I'm working on today will be overdue by tomorrow. The tasks that I have that I'll get done tomorrow will move up to the today column by the time that we get to tomorrow. So it's just a really nice simple way to bring all of the tasks that you're working on to one space to be able to manage your workload and workflow. Okay, so I'm going to pop back to our main My Boards dashboard. Okay, and I just wanted to give you a really quick indication of how you can create a board, nice and quick. So if I come to new board here from the My Boards dashboard, I'm going to say new employee development plan, for example. I can give it a description if I like. I can also invite people at this point or later down the track if I want. I've also got the option to give public access to my organisation, so this is discoverable. So I'll press next. You've got some template options here. So the classic is to do, doing, done. We've also got weekdays, departments and meeting, and you can search our global template library as well. So if you have you're most welcome to use any of the templates that we have in our library, and you can also create and search your own templates as well. I've got the option to view this, the starting view as Kanban, mind map or timeline, but at any point I can flip through to the different views as the project or tasks develop and change, and as my need changes as well. So I'll just, for the moment, I'll stick with the Kanban view and the classic view, and I'll press create. So this has brought me through to my new board that I've created. So super quick and easy. I've got the ability to edit, even though we selected a template, I can still come in and edit these lists as desired. And of course I can drag them around to whatever order is most pleasing. So adding cards, as an example, when you hit enter, it's just a really quick, takes you to the next card. And again, when we click in, we've got the ability to add in all of the information that we need to help us get this job done. On the right-hand side, I've got the members, and again, I can add anyone from my organisation or external. I've got colour labels to edit, and I can also view by mind map and timeline as well. Okay, so if I pop it back to my Boards dashboard, so pretty much what we've covered so far, it's a bit of a whirlwind to get through everything, but what we've covered is a little look at the My Boards dashboard. We've had a look at how you might use an individual board, just a really simple example of doing some website updates. We've had a look at a team board, how you could collaborate with your team, and that example was the new employee onboarding. So that's a really popular one. We have a template for that for anyone who's interested in just grabbing one of our templates to get your new employees started. And then we've had a look at the social media management, where we're working with an external company who manages that project for us. So those are the three three perspectives of Kudos Boards. And then we've had a quick look at the to-dos aspect, managing our workflow, and I've touched on templates as well. So I just want to come across to Teams for a little bit. So as I mentioned at the start of this, Kudos Boards integrates really seamlessly into Microsoft Teams. So at the moment I'm using the web version of Teams, but this integrates also of course into the desktop version. And as I said, you have full functionality across the web, Teams desktop, Teams web app as well. So all of the things that I did today, you can also do in Teams, completely the same. So just on my left-hand side here, this is how I've come to the Kudos Boards, My Boards dashboard. You can search for an app. You can come to more apps and search for Kudos Boards. And to get started, so if we say open, that'll open Kudos Boards for me. Okay, so that's loading. And I can come into any of the boards that I was working on. So if it's a board that I'm just working on personally, I can access that directly from Teams and work on here, all of the same functionality as I had before, as I mentioned. So any changes that I want to do in here, I can do that directly from here. So this is the first sort of perspective of Kudos Boards, is the My Boards dashboard and your access perspective for the Teams integration is being able to plug Kudos Boards into your team channels. So for example, here on the left-hand side, I've got a couple of teams already established. So this is a new starter onboarding team. And as you can see here, we've actually had some existing boards plugged in. And I can see here some updates of what's happening in the board. But just to take you through the process, if I wanted to add our new employee onboarding for October, I'll click on the plus tab. It's going to come up, it's coming up for me with the option of Kudos Boards, but you've also got the option to add Kudos Boards here as well. So I'll just click on that. I'm going to choose to display an existing board, but I've of course got the option to create a new board or show all of the boards that are associated with that team. So let's see. New October 2019. That's one we've been looking at. Press save. Okay, so it's going to open it, the board as a tab within this team channel. So you'll see and probably hear some of the notifications that come through Kudos Boards. So anytime that there's a change to the board or someone is assigned to a task or responds with an app mention, that'll come up from Kudos Boards through Microsoft Teams as well. So again, all of the same functionality here that you had in the web version, all of that work can be done here as well. So if I click back to conversations, as I mentioned, I'll get a notification that something has happened. But this is a really nice way, having this feed in the conversation to see what has happened in a board is another really nice way to just keep track of who's doing what and what progress is being made. So if I'm away for a day or so from work and I want to come back and I say, okay, what's been happening in this board, I can simply pop in and have a look to see what's been happening, who's been doing what. So again, that's a nice little stream of accountability and transparency within the board, something that is a little bit harder to track once you get to that reply all email sort of situation. Okay, so that is the Microsoft Teams integrations. So I'm conscious of time, and I had planned to finish a little bit before 3:30. So what I want to tell you just quickly is that we do have integrations, without going into too much detail, we do have integrations into Outlook, and that's the ability to share boards over email. With people internal or external to your organization, sending a link. And you've also got the ability to send emails directly from Outlook to a board. So say an email comes in, we're never going to be rid of emails completely, but for example, an email comes in and I want to add that to the board so I can keep track of it in my board where all of the project action and tasks are taking place. I can send that email directly to the board, and I've got the option to select which board it's going to, which list it'll sit under. Am I assigning it to a specific person as a task to be done, and does it need a due date? So that's another really nice point of integration into Outlook. We've also got the option to add Kudos Boards to a SharePoint site page. So for some organizations who are using site pages as sort of like a project hub, you can add Kudos Boards to those site pages as well. So again, full functionality within SharePoint, within that board that you've added to the site page. The additional integration is OneDrive. So the ability to add files to OneDrive as well. If I click here, these files that you upload to Kudos Boards, you can select where you would like them to be stored within your OneDrive, or you can select files that are already within your OneDrive to add them to a board. Okay, so I wanted to show you quickly, coming back to Teams. So the easiest way, one thing that is certainly available to anyone who is interested in trying Kudos Boards is to have a free trial of Kudos Boards. So one of the easiest ways to do that within Microsoft Teams is just come across to this more added apps section. Of course, it's already added in for me, but if it wasn't, for example, I can come to more apps and I can type in Kudos and it's going to pop up. So depending on the permissions of your organization and who has, you might need IT administration to allow this to come into your Teams environment. But once it's in, you'll have the option to select to start a free trial, and that's valid for 30 days as well. So I know I'm talking, we've got a couple of listeners from different parts of the world. So obviously we've got quite a few from Australia and New Zealand, but anyone who's listening to this later on who's overseas, this is a really nice and easy way to come in here. You can also request quotes via the Teams App Store for us to provide you with a quote, and we can do that in US currency or Australian currency, whatever is needed. The other option, of course, is to add Kudos Boards as a team tab up here like we did before. So again, you can start a free trial from this point as well, and that trial lasts for 30 days. So there's no limit to the number of people who can participate in a trial. So if you would like to get a team involved to see what they think of Kudos Boards, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so I will finish up there. I'm going to pop into the Q&A for a second and see what what questions we have. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions. Do you support Microsoft Flow? Thanks very much for that question. At the moment, we don't have an integration into Microsoft Flow. We've got the four main integration points with Office 365, as I mentioned, which are Teams, Outlook, OneDrive, and SharePoint. What I would say, though, is that we are publishing the API for Kudos Boards very shortly, so in the next month or so. So what that will mean is that we are part of the API will be published, and that will create more accessibility for us to integrate with additional applications. So Microsoft Flow is definitely on our list to be integrated into in the near future. Pricing is another question. I can't see your pricing. Can you let me know a rough estimate? Yep. So in terms of pricing, Kudos Boards is a per user per month subscription. And for 0 to 499 users, it's $6.49 per user per month plus GST. So let me, I'll put the pricing information in a follow-up link after, along with the webinar link, but $6.49 per user per month when you're 0 to 499 users. Once you get beyond that 500 to, I think it's 1,000 users, the price starts dropping. So that falls, keeps dropping all the way down to when you get to 10,000 plus users. So if you are interested in a quote, just to get a formal, a quote, an idea of what you could expect for your business or organization, please feel free to send me through an email, and I'd be happy just to give you, to mock that up for you, just so you have an idea. Next question is about Planner. Great. Okay, so let me just, given that it's about Planner, given that it is about Planner, I'm just going to swap to new screen. Okay. All right. So I'll just bring up this slide for you. Okay, so Kudos Boards versus Planner. We do get asked quite a bit about Planner in terms of, we've already got access to Planner, why would we pay for a subscription? And that's a normal question to ask, and we're quite happy to answer it as well. So in terms of the difference between Kudos Boards and Planner, what you probably saw today with Kudos Boards is that it's a really beautiful, intuitive interface. So when you want to do something, it's pretty much just a matter of clicking on it or dragging and dropping. It doesn't take, rocket scientists to figure out Kudos Boards. It's really a nice, easy, intuitive tool for people to manage their tasks and work collaboratively with other people. In terms of a few things that Kudos Boards does that Planner doesn't, one of the most important things, I think, and a lot of people don't realize this, but it's just nice to know, is that you can't, with Kudos Boards, you can archive and restore cards, lists, and boards and templates. So for example, you clean up a board thinking, oh, I don't need all of that information, that's okay, I'm done with that. You delete it, no worries. You can always come back to that, and if you think at a later date, oh, actually I need that, or it was just a plain mistake, you've always got the option to go back and restore those tasks or cards at any point. So unless you do a permanent delete, all of that information is still available to you. That difference in comparison to Microsoft Planner, once you delete something, it is gone, and there's you'll have to start that information again from scratch, which in some cases I'm sure could be really time consuming and difficult for some people, and particularly when it's a mistake, because we all make mistakes. So it's nice that you have that option in Kudos Boards just to restore something really quickly. We did touch on that you can invite external guests, of course, and I guess the one difference, you can invite external guests to Planner. The difference is that Kudos Boards allows you those 3 options of reader, author, editor. With Planner, it is a one-size-fits-all. So template creation, we've got the template creation area specifically, which means that you can keep things nice and neat, standardized across business in terms of having templates. That's something that unfortunately isn't available in Planner. We touched on workflow with the to-dos tab from the My Boards dashboard, and that brings all of the cards across all of your boards into one place to manage your workflow. That unfortunately only works in Planner if you assign the cards to yourself. So for example, you have, if you're working in Planner on just a board that's just for you, unless you assign all of those tasks to yourself, they won't actually show up. It only works for assigned tasks. Okay, the other nice function that we have in Kudos Boards is the @mention of colleagues. So that sends them an email notification to say, hey, you've been mentioned in a board, prompts them to take action. But that's a really nice way of managing communications entirely within a board without having to go to email or reply all emails. It stays within the board, everyone can see it, see what's happening. Okay, so we might leave it there for the moment as we are nearly at 3:30. If you have any more questions or need any more information, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll send a follow-up email to everyone in the next day with a link to a webinar, which you're most welcome to share with your colleagues. And I'll also send a link to a blog post which explains how you can get started with Kudos Boards via the Teams App Store. So if you need more information on how to get started without the Teams App Store, if you're not yet using Teams, just let me know and I'd be happy to take you through that. That's really simple as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you found this session really valuable. We obviously touched on a lot of information today in terms of 3 different examples, you know, sort of managing web inquiries, looking after a new employee, onboarding, and working with external contractors. So we've really covered those 3 perspectives of individual, team, and external invited parties today. There's a lot more that Kudos Boards can do. So if you have any questions specifically regarding your business that you'd like to know, how do you think this could work, or we've got this situation, we want to manage it with Kudos Boards, but we're not sure where to start, please feel free to get in touch. You have my details in the confirmation emails, but you'll have them again in a day or so when I send the follow-up. But thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you a wonderful day, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.